Hello, Chris. Great having you here
Hi,
again.
Philip. Thank you, Philip, for having me.
Continuing our discussion on Schelling, I'm really interested in inspiration. So, this is something we find in all thinkers and poets and artists and beyond, that people get inspired. They are taken up, even possessed by some divinity, you might say. But it seems like in Schelling, this is more of an explicit element. Right? And so, could you say something about how inspiration is at work in Schelling, and whether you think his work in and of itself is inspiration?
What a, you've been asking such brilliant questions. I love these. Inspiration is absolutely necessary and important for Schelling. He really likes these, I don't want to say shock moments that shock us into acting um, but as we talked about before with his system of transcendental idealism, this idea of linking the subjective or mind, cognition with nature, and this idea that nature's unconscious powers affect us through the inspiration of genius and art and music. I think it's interesting, we have these moments where you're walking down the street and all of a sudden a song pops in your head and the song takes over to the point where you can hear the instruments being played in your head. These are Schellingian moments. Schelling would say this is a pure mode of inspiration where you are fully united to nature and yourself at this time. Because where did those sounds come from? How did you get influenced by this? This influence, like think about this for a second. When you're influenced by a sunset or a piece of music, you're being affected by sound waves, or you're being affected by a perceptual image that somehow moved your entire being. And this kind of inspiration is something that Schelling thinks that is important for philosophy. At this point, when he says that art is the organ, the absolute organ for philosophy, he really means that art is this, or even inspiration is this moment that can bind us, that allows us to be human, fully human,
Yeah,
at the most kind of maximizing capacity.
overhuman, more
Yeah.
human than human.
Yeah. Yes. Um, I also think that Schelling is also a thinker that is also moved by inspiration. He's inspired by so many philosophers and thinkers. Um, he takes a theosopher from the 17th century, Jacob Boehme, who, by the way, was writing 20 years before Descartes, which is
Yeah,
just absurd. Like
yeah,
no one realizes that he's that modern.
yeah,
Um, and he's inspired by the kind of theosophical, poetic imagery, um, and uses that. He uses the language of even of Meister Eckhart, Grund, Abgrund, Ungrund, from Burma. So we have this great lineage of these words, and he takes these words from these other traditions that he's been inspired by and re reutilizes them, and they still have just as much impact. And he wants to give us that inspirational impact as we're reading the text.
yeah.
Like when we get to the highest point of the text, which he says, the highest point of the treatise is the Ungrund, where we hear about this unground. What is that? So he is someone that is both inspired by specific characters and brings in elements of their thought, but also wants to wants to give us really good examples of how we ourselves can be inspired within the world, right? The world is enveloped with us. We're not just separated. We're not Cartesian. He really, this is really his kind of anti-Fichtean side, right?
Hmm.
Like part about him that we're not just these. At one point, Fichte's great because Fichte makes even thinking this active deed, this free act, right? But Schelling wants to say, well, it's not just thinking that's a free act, it's everything that we do is this free act. Everything is a part of this
Exactly.
activity. Yeah.
Yeah. So can Schelling teach me to be inspired? Or
I think
anyone for
he
that matter?
I
Right?
think he can I think Schelling can teach many people to be inspired. I think the minute you start reading the freedom essay, which is why I love this is why when I tell anyone to read anything by Schelling, it's this essay because it is it is an inspiring text that has so many debates, debates with Jacobi, debates with Hegel, debates with Kant, debates with Jakob Böhme and Meister Eckhart and Cusanus and Plotinus,
Yeah.
but also um, with the biblical tradition, with Kabbalah, with many other philosophical ideas. And I think it will, I think each person will be inspired by one element of the text. Maybe you're inspired by the morality of it. Maybe you're
Mhm.
inspired by the ethical element. Maybe you'll be inspired by this element of existentialism that's in it. Maybe you're interested in Schelling's uh, progression to realism, his
Yeah.
kind of ontological realism.
But can
I
you be
think
this inspired by the inspiration itself?
I think so. I think you know when I first read The System of Transcendental Idealism, it changed me as a person because I started realizing that you know those moments where we're taken aback. I think Freud calls it the oceanic moment where you like look you look at the Grand Canyon or something or some great event, some great um, monument in nature, and you realize, whoa, there must be something more. That
Yeah.
that uh, that element, that wanting more, that element that there has to be more, or um, this enchantment with nature, I think is something that he can help you be inspired by.
Would you say it's a road to Damascus moment?
I think it is it's funny. When I first read the Freedom Essay, I hated it. I had to like, I almost wanted to be sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
because,
that's maybe just showing you how corrupted you were and how much work that would needed to be done on you.
it's true, it's true. I was a Deleuzian at the time. I was a very, I was really into post-structuralism and it was just like, what am I reading here? But the more that I became fascinated with the imagery and the concepts, the more it was a kind of moment, like you said, Road to Damascus, a return actually back to German idealism and then fell
Well,
in
the
love
fact
with
that
the
you had such
tradition
a
again.
strong response suggests that something beneath all those post-structural layers was resonating with this and trying to come through all of that.
Yeah, no, fighting with it, absolutely fighting with it. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the text is, and a lot more people are being interested in Schelling these days and Hegel, because we've reached a point where everyone's really interested in interdisciplinarity. They want to do religious studies and philosophy, or they want to do
Yeah.
the history of philosophy and science, or philosophy of language. And they want to do all these things together, and they
Yeah.
realize that too much disciplines are too rigid, and that we
Yeah.
need to read thinkers that are not as rigid. And I think that's also inspiring too.
Yeah. One needs moments of interdisciplinariness, or like not even interdisciplinariness. I mean, proper integration of different fields into oneself, like the way Schelling is doing with the fields and resources he's looking at.
Yeah,
A lot of the great physicists read a lot of philosophy, right? They were
they
interested in
did.
a lot of different things. They weren't just doing the technical stuff. So I've another question. So when you were talking about walking down the street and hearing or being reminded of a song, right? Um, is inspiration for Schelling something that you experience? Is it passive or is it active in a sense that you are producing something when you're inspired. Like, a poet with the muses, they are being dictated to by the genius, right? So, but there is this active element where you are at work with something. Or are they both equally, valid, good versions of inspiration?
Yeah, so the maybe my example is a bit confusing because I'm not an artist and I couldn't paint if my life depended on it. But yeah, no, he means so in the case of artistic genius, this is where like a painter um, can see a sunset or experience an opera or a piece of music and then go home and paint something. And that act of inspiration, where did that come from? Where did this inspiration to create this product, this artwork, where did that come from? That is what he means for the artist, for the actual artist. That's where it comes from. He literally states that nature's unconscious powers affect us in that sense, right? We're
Yeah.
being affected by something perceptual, some image, or some piece of music. But for the I don't want to say average person, for the person that's maybe not an artist or a poet, they are also moved by the same unconscious powers, but maybe not in the genius sense, maybe not in the sense that they're creating their own artwork. Maybe they are, then that's great. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It would be passive if you weren't creating a a piece of a piece
Well,
of
it
art.
doesn't need to be a piece of art for them to be active, but it has to be
Right.
something has to be produced out of it. Maybe the
Yes.
experience itself is a production, or I don't know, right?
Yes. No, no. Yes, you're right. The experience itself would be a production. Even the idea of it would be a product. The thought of thinking of something, the feeling of something comes together as a product. This is in the system of transcendental idealism, yes, as well as the artwork itself that is being formulated. Yeah, I forgot about that element that, we add even our own thought adds something to the idea of something, adds a bit of our own content, our own product to it.
Well, yes. I mean, it's there in Kant, we synthesize things and make an original experience, right? And when we see something beautiful, we see purposelessness,
Yep.
purposeful purposelessness, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Or when we are seeing the infinite ocean, seemingly infinite, what we're basking in the infinity of our reason.
Yes, we are. Yep.
So um, the the insp in being inspired, you're already producing something creative,
Yes, you are.
because you are an artist of your own experience, one might say.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's funny. It's funny when I'll say something and then you'll say something and it's really nice. It's really nice how you like contextualize it and then make it your own. It's very nice. Like the back and forth between the two of us. Yeah.
Now the discussion has turned into a meta discussion. We're now talking about our talking about things. Are you sure you're still not a little bit postmodernist?
No, 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 no. Completely done with that. Completely done with that.
Once the truth has been revealed, it cannot be hidden again.
It's funny because part of my frustration with postmodernity is this kind of the lack of subjectivity, the lack of even truth,
Mm.
right? The lack of that element. Yeah.
Yeah, which just
That for
seems
me,
plain wrong.
yeah, no, for the longest time, I considered postmodernity or post-structuralism. It's going to really irritate a lot of people, but so be it. It's like they put yellow tape around an object, caution tape. This
Mm.
is what I say. They take apart a pen, they deconstruct the pen, find all the forces or all the conceptual powers that made it together, right? Like the lead, the whole process and the history of how lead was made, and then the plastics and come together. And that's great for knowledge. But now the pen is shattered on the ground and you haven't made anything new. All you've done is dissected the pen
Yeah.
within this bracketed framework, within this caution tape. And that's all it did, or
Yeah.
all it does. It's a great mechanization for deconstruction, but not the greatest method for creation and understanding the
Yeah.
world. That's what
Whereas
I think.
Schelling, on the other hand, he is like, here's the crime scene where being happened. We're going to step over the tape now and take a closer
Yes.
look.
That's really good. I like that. That's really good. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you coming?
Yes. Are you coming along?
You
Yes,
coming along?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. This was really
Thank you, Phil.
awesome and helpful. Um, the Freedom Essay is an inspiring text, and everybody should give it a read.
Yep. Or come along and read with me.
Yes, read with Chris, even better. Gonna explore the crime scene together of being,
We
or
should
ground
call it
the
that for the video.
crime scene of being.
Yeah, the
Ground
crimes.
dissolved.
Yes, yes.
All right, thanks. See you people. Bye bye.
See ya.